Viewer discretion is strongly advised. What you are about to hear is intended solely for educational and entertainment purposes. These are the exact words delivered in a federal courtroom during the trial of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs, as reported by Inner City Press. The courtroom was so silent you could hear a pin drop as the judge called the next witness. Every head turned toward the back. Whispers rippled through the room when a recognizable face stepped forward, one no one ever expected to take the stand. Usher Raymond, the Grammy-winning R&B icon, wasn't here to talk about his chart-topping music or a record label dispute. He was here to testify about what really went on behind the closed doors of Diddy's empire. For years, Usher kept quiet. He played along with the industry, gave charming interviews, and skillfully dodged the tough questions. But now, with Diddy facing federal charges of trafficking, coercion, and running a criminal enterprise rooted in abuse, Usher was ready to speak the truth. And that truth, he admitted, had been haunting him for decades. His testimony began with a memory. Usher was just 14 years old when his mother told him he'd be moving to New York to live under Diddy's mentorship. He was young, full of ambition, riding high off his debut album. Music executive L.A. Reid had arranged the move, convinced that Diddy could catapult Usher's career to the next level. But no one predicted the world Usher was about to enter. "I thought I was going to learn how to become a star," Usher told the court, his voice calm but visibly strained. "Instead, I saw things no teenager should ever be exposed to." From the moment he stepped into Diddy's Midtown Manhattan penthouse, Usher described a world of disturbing excess. Champagne was served with breakfast. Unknown people woke up in bedrooms he didn't even know existed. Celebrities and models, faces he recognized from TV and magazines, lounged around half-dressed or completely unconscious. It wasn't a home, he said. It was a scene. They called it Flavor Camp. At first, Usher thought it was just a catchy name for a mentorship program. Later, he realized it stood for something else entirely: indulgence without limits. Usher testified that Diddy wasn't focused on teaching him music or performance. Instead, he was told to watch, to follow without questioning. "This is how we do it," he told me. "You don't ask. You just watch." That's how grown men roll. One night, around 3 a.m., Usher said he woke up to soft music and candlelight in the hall. Masked strangers were entering the apartment. When he walked into the living room, he described the scene as something ritualistic, not just sexual, but organized. There were cameras, lists. No one seemed surprised, he recalled. "I remember thinking maybe this was a movie set, but deep down, I knew I shouldn't be seeing this." He was told to go back to bed, but Usher said he never slept that night. That moment, he told the jury, permanently altered how he saw Diddy and the entire industry, forever. The next part of Usher's testimony focused on the warnings he never received, warnings that should have come from his record label, from his mother, from the countless industry veterans who knew exactly what Diddy's world looked like behind the scenes. People thought Diddy was just eccentric, Usher explained. What they didn't see was how much power he had, power that didn't have to be loud to be dangerous. It was absolute, and it was silent. If Diddy didn't like you, your career slowed to a crawl. If he did like you, then your loyalty and your silence were expected. According to Usher, he wasn't the only one. There were others, young artists brought into Diddy's inner circle, promised rapid fame and stardom, only to be drawn deeper into something they couldn't quite understand at the time. He didn't mention names, not yet, but made it clear others would come forward. There were people around us, assistants, drivers, musicians, who all saw it. They acted like everything was normal. But deep down, we knew the adults around us failed us. One of the most disturbing moments came when Usher described a private trip to the Caribbean when he was just 15. It was framed as a mentorship retreat, just him, Diddy, and a few others. The location was remote, no media, no cameras. But the purpose wasn't about music. "It was there that I realized I wasn't brought to learn anything about the industry," he said, pausing briefly. "I won't get into everything, but I will say this. I didn't choose the environment I was placed in. It took me years to understand the manipulation." The courtroom was dead silent. After that trip, Usher said things shifted. Diddy became more possessive, more controlling. There were always new people around, more elaborate parties, and a growing list of unspoken rules. Whenever Usher dared to question anything, he was quickly reminded of who held the keys to his career. He told me, "You don't bite the hand that feeds you. Remember who gave you this life." Usher paused, then looked directly at Diddy. "You didn't give me this life," he said. "You gave me nightmares." The next part of his testimony was even more startling. At age 16, Usher said he was presented with a contract, a non-disclosure agreement. Framed as a standard NDA meant to protect the business interests of Bad Boy Records, it actually contained specific clauses about private events, guest behavior, and strict discretion. "I didn't even know what half the language meant," he admitted. "My mother co-signed it. The label's lawyers told us it was standard. But now I know exactly what it was, a contract to buy my silence." Usher signed because he trusted them. "That signature locked my voice away for years," he said. "I wasn't allowed to speak about the parties, the people, the behavior. I was told that if I did, it would ruin the brand." Then he paused and asked, "But what about what it did to me?" Years later, when he attempted to open up during an interview in 2009, Usher said things took a dark turn. As the questions began to get more personal, he got a call from Bad Boy's old legal team. They reminded me of my NDA. They said, "We hope you're not planning to jeopardize your reputation." Usher never went through with the interview. But it wasn't just the lawyers. He claimed he received veiled threats from people he hadn't heard from in years, people still deeply connected to Diddy's circle. "You think you've left that world behind," he said, "but that world doesn't leave you. And if you step out of line, the consequences don't just hit your career, they hit your safety." The courtroom sat frozen. Usher then pulled out a copy of the NDA and placed it on the stand. The judge reviewed it and accepted it into evidence. The language was chilling. Phrases about audiovisual documentation, unauthorized reproduction, and strict confidentiality. In light of Diddy's alleged freak-off video archive, those phrases took on a much darker meaning. Usher's voice cracked ever so slightly. "That document made me feel like I was crazy for years," he said quietly. "Like everything I saw, everything I felt, wasn't real, simply because I wasn't allowed to say it out loud." He paused, visibly trying to steady himself as he described a lesser-known incident from 1996. He was just 17 when Diddy invited him to an exclusive mansion party in Atlanta, a night that would fundamentally alter the way Usher saw the man he once admired as a mentor. According to Usher, Diddy was in full host mode that evening. The mansion overflowed with celebrities, models, and unfamiliar men who didn't seem to have any connection to the music business. The house was extravagant. Marble floors, high ceilings, security posted at every doorway, and a DJ spinning until dawn. But it wasn't the glitz that stayed with him. It was something else, something darker. What haunted him was the secret room. Usher recalled Diddy whispering to a security guard who then unlocked a heavily secured door tucked away at the back of the house. Diddy glanced at him and smirked, saying, "You're not ready for that yet." But Usher peeked inside anyway. "There were people in masks," he told the court. "That's all I'll say. I didn't even know what I was looking at." Then came a confession that made the entire courtroom shift in their seats. "I think that night changed me," he said softly. "I saw things I still can't explain. I don't know if it was legal, but I know it wasn't right." He then pulled out photocopied pages from an old journal. Usher explained that he started the journal in 1998. At first, it was just a place to write lyrics and personal thoughts. But over time, it evolved into something more, a private vault of reflections and memories from his years around Diddy. One entry dated March 1999 read, "Had dinner with Diddy and 3 execs I didn't know. They kept talking about loyalty. One said, 'Loyalty keeps you on tour. Honesty puts you back home.' Diddy laughed." Another from October 2000 described a party he chose not to attend. "Too many secrets. Too many masks." Diddy says it's just the culture. "I don't agree." "Did you ever tell anyone about these entries?" the prosecutor asked. Usher shook his head. "I was afraid of losing everything," he admitted. "I didn't think anyone would believe me." When asked why he chose to speak now, Usher replied, "Because I've carried it long enough. It's time the truth comes out." Leaning closer to the microphone, Usher then revealed something he said he had never even told his closest friends. In 1997, when he was 18, Diddy invited him to meet a major music investor in Miami, someone who, Diddy claimed, could fund his first world tour and launch his global brand. I thought it was a business opportunity, Usher explained. Diddy hyped it up like it was the break of a lifetime. He told me to dress sharp, be polite, and make an impression. But when he arrived at the penthouse suite at the Seta Hotel, he was caught off guard. 3 men lounged in robes, sipping expensive champagne. Several young women sat quietly in the background. The vibe was off. One of the men, he said he was from overseas, asked me, "Do you want to be remembered forever?" Usher said he wasn't talking about music. Usher then revealed that Diddy left him alone in the suite. "I felt trapped," he said. "They didn't touch me, but one of them put his hand on my shoulder and said, 'You can stay, or you can leave, but you'll never get another invitation like this again.' He left, and everything changed. Soon after, he said, a tour opportunity vanished. A prominent producer backed out of a project with no explanation. No one told me it was because I left that room," Usher said. But after that night, doors that had always been open suddenly closed. Usher also testified about a moment that haunted him for years. A few weeks after the Atlanta party, Diddy showed him a clip from a handheld camera. He laughed while playing it back, Usher recalled. The video showed another young artist, someone Usher knew, engaged in something he clearly wouldn't have done willingly. He wouldn't have agreed to that, Usher said, his voice tight. Not unless someone made him. "Did Diddy threaten you?" the attorney asked. Usher paused. "He didn't have to," he said. "The people around him did. They didn't use words. They used silence. They used exile." That, Usher explained, was the moment he understood. Fame in Diddy's world wasn't earned through talent anymore. It was maintained through submission. That's how you survived. That's how you stayed relevant. The courtroom lights dimmed slightly as the cameras focused solely on Usher's face. His tone shifted, more personal, more vulnerable. "This is the hardest part," he said softly, "because now it's not even about me anymore." Usher began speaking about the early days of Justin Bieber's rise, a story the public thought they knew. Usher had co-signed Justin, championed him, mentored him like a protective older brother. "At the start, it was all love," Usher said. "I wanted to be the big brother I never had." But then Diddy entered the picture. Usher testified that Diddy began inviting the teen star to exclusive gatherings, referring to them as Flavor Camp, the same phrase Diddy had once used with Usher. He was 15, Usher said, visibly shaken, and they were treating him like he was 30. In 2011, Usher received a call from Bieber. He didn't say anything at first. "I just heard him breathing." Then, finally, he said, "I want to come home." Usher's team scrambled to locate him, but Bieber went silent for 2 days. When they finally met again, the boy wouldn't look Usher in the eyes. All he said was, "It's fine. I'm good now." But he wasn't, Usher said, pausing. He really wasn't. At that point, Usher said he confronted Diddy directly. "I asked him, 'What are you doing to these kids?' Diddy's reply stunned him. He looked at me, laughed, and said, 'Same thing they did to me. It's how the game works.'" That was the final serious conversation Usher ever had with him. "After that, I pulled back," Usher said. "I didn't want my name attached to it. But after watching what happened to Justin, I couldn't stay silent anymore." For the first time, Usher also revealed that in 2018, he received a phone call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end said, "Tell him to keep his mouth shut, or we'll shut it for him." "Who do you believe was behind the call?" the attorney asked. Usher slowly turned his gaze to the defense table. "I think you know," he answered. Then came what Usher described as the breaking point. It was a private gathering in 2002 held at a secluded estate in the Hollywood Hills, an event that, until now, had never been publicly mentioned. He called it a rite of passage, not a party. According to Usher, Diddy told him he'd be meeting a new European producer. But when he arrived, there were no producers, no executives. Just heavy security, low lighting, and a deep, unsettling sense of secrecy. Phones were taken at the entrance. Guests were handed contracts labeled NDAs, but the language, Usher said, was more aggressive than anything I'd seen in this industry. "The vibe was just wrong," he he testified, his voice cracking for the first time. There were people there who weren't artists. They weren't industry. They were just watching. Usher claimed he recognized several famous faces that had never been publicly connected to Diddy. He didn't name them, but hinted that if the trial moved forward, others would come forward too. The most chilling part of Usher's testimony came when he described what happened after he tried to leave a party early. As he made his way out, he was stopped by a man he didn't recognize and escorted into a side room. Inside, Diddy sat waiting. He looked at me and said, "You're not ready yet. You still think this is about music. This is bigger than that." Usher left that night and never returned to another party hosted by Diddy again. His testimony then shifted toward Diddy's business dealings, not just with him, but with countless other artists under the Bad Boy Records umbrella. For the first time publicly, Usher submitted internal emails and contract drafts to the court. Among them was the development deal he signed as a teenager, a deal that locked him into producing 5 albums and stripped him of rights to his master recordings until he turned 35. "I didn't know what I was signing," Usher admitted. "I just wanted to sing." He went on to reveal that he wasn't alone. Other artists have been bound by similar contracts. Names like Carl Thomas, Total, Black Rob, and the late Craig Mack were all mentioned. Usher alleged that Diddy followed a recurring pattern: lure artists in with promises of mentorship and visibility, only to discard them when they stopped being useful or obedient. In a stunning revelation, Usher testified that a private accountant once showed him a spreadsheet outlining royalties he had never received, totaling over $4.3 million. When he brought the matter to Diddy, he said the mogul laughed and replied, "If you knew what was really owed to you, you wouldn't sleep at night." Court documents further confirmed that several former artists had accepted silent settlements, some taking small payments in exchange for the basic right to perform under their own names or use their old songs again. One of the biggest shocks came when Usher shared that he had once attempted to organize a secret meeting in 2011 with other former Bad Boy artists. The goal was to address their shared grievances, but the meeting never happened because someone tipped Diddy off. Even more damning was his claim that he once witnessed Diddy ordering the destruction of demo tapes and footage belonging to an artist who had threatened to speak out. That artist, Usher said quietly, has disappeared. "I don't know where he is. Nobody does. But I remember his voice, and I remember how scared he was." The courtroom fell into absolute silence. As his testimony reached its final moments, Usher was asked why he hadn't come forward sooner. What followed was raw and heartbreaking. "Because I thought I owed him," he said through tears. "I thought that staying quiet was the way to move forward and still be grateful. But you can't be grateful for a lie." Usher admitted that guilt had followed him for years. He watched younger artists fall into the same traps he once did, feeling powerless to intervene without risking everything he had built. It was always about leverage, he said, and Diddy had all of it. He revealed that in 2016, when the controversial Drink Champs clip began circulating online again, he tried to confront Diddy privately. But Diddy's legal team blocked all contact. One of the most powerful moments came when Usher read from an unpublished journal entry he had written the night he officially cut ties with Diddy. It said, "I survived Puffy, but did the kid in me survive? I still don't know." He concluded his testimony with a direct message to the courtroom, to victims watching online, and to the next generation of artists. This isn't just about one man. It's about a system, an industry that taught kids like me to stay quiet, stay obedient, and never question the hand that fed us. He looked up, his voice steady now. "But I'm here, and I'm not afraid anymore. Not for myself. I've already lived through it. I'm doing this for the ones who didn't." The courtroom sat frozen in silence. What began as a federal investigation into racketeering and trafficking had evolved into something far greater, a long overdue reckoning for decades of silence within the music industry. What the public never knew, until now, was that at the peak of his early fame, shortly after releasing 8,701 in 2001, Usher suddenly vanished from the spotlight for an entire week. Industry insiders chalked it up to exhaustion, assuming he needed a break from his relentless tour schedule. But in court, Usher revealed the truth. He had checked himself into a private mental health facility in Northern California. under a false name. According to his testimony, the breakdown was the result of unresolved trauma dating back to his teenage years living with Diddy. Usher admitted he began experiencing panic attacks after turning 20, triggered by everyday things like flashing lights, crowded venues, or even certain songs. For a while, he didn't understand the connection. Then, one night while staying in a New York hotel, ironically a building that once hosted one of Diddy's infamous parties, it all came flooding back. I walked into the hallway and smelled the same brand of candles he used to burn, Usher told the court. My whole body locked up. I started shaking. I couldn't breathe. That night, his team rushed him to the clinic. He remained under observation for 5 days. During that time, Usher shared something with the in-house psychiatrist that he had never spoken aloud. Not to family, not to friends, not even to his label. I told him I saw things no kid should ever see, Usher said. I lived in a world where power meant silence, and survival meant pretending you were fine. That house wasn't just a crash pad. It was a place where dreams were sold, but your soul was the price. The psychiatrist diagnosed him with PTSD, a revelation that stunned both the courtroom and fans following the case around the world. Usher explained that it took nearly 2 years of intensive therapy before he could sleep through the night without nightmares. Though he didn't name names, he hinted that other young artists who had similar experiences with Diddy had also disappeared from the public eye, or suffered breakdowns in silence. I was lucky, he said. I had the resources to get help, but some of the others didn't. One overdosed, another attempted suicide, and one just disappeared. When asked why he waited more than 2 decades to come forward, Usher didn't hesitate. Because no one would have believed me in 2001, he said. Puffy was untouchable, and I was just a kid with a voice. But now, he added, his voice steady. Now the world is ready to listen. The courtroom was still, not just from the weight of his words, but from the implications behind them. That behind every platinum album, every Grammy acceptance speech, and every sold-out arena, there may have been a silent war raging inside the mind of a young artist, just trying to survive. And now, finally, Usher was speaking out, not just for himself, but for every voice the music industry had tried to bury.